Happy days are here again. The skies above are clear again. The Chicago Bears finally fired Pace and Matt Nagy. Yeah, baby. Welcome to Let's Talk Chicago Bears. Yeah, baby. You know, I had to get some kind of a song in there for that, right? Couldn't do a victory song because of that atrocious game yesterday. But we have some great news today. They fired Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. I wasn't 100% sure Ryan Pace would get fired, but he did. So I'm happy about it. I've been wanting Nagy gone since 2019. You know that. If you talk to me, if you listen to my show last year, you know it. I'm so glad. I'm sorry, but they should be gone. And so let's talk about the Bears game a little bit yesterday, and then we'll move on to the big news today. But the Bears lost 17-31, as you all know. They end the season 6-11, as my sign says. And so, you know, the game, I mean, it looked like the way they came out, I thought, wow, they're gonna win this game because they were doing well. And then you know, I've been reading a lot of comments. Matt Nagy's not calling the plays. Bill Lazor is, don't blame Matt Nagy, blah, 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 blah. Bullshit. Matt Nagy had 100% input onto what Bill Lazor was doing, if not changing the plays. I totally believe that. Lazor's going to be gone too. We know that, so that's not a problem. Because I do want him gone. But, you know, people who think that Matt Nagy didn't have his hands in the play calling, even when he said he didn't, you're kidding yourself, people, okay? But let's just talk about a few things. We're not going to beat a dead horse about this game yesterday, and then we'll talk more about the big news today. But just to go over, you know how categories are big for me. If you win most of the categories or, you know, more than your other team, you should win the game, right? Right. Well, the Bears, again, like last week, won the majority of the categories and lost big by 14 points. And that is on Matt Nagy. But we're going to talk about that. So total plays, they had 80. They won. I'm not going to talk about what Minnesota had. Just trust me. Total yards, they had 356 more than they only had 2 penalties. Can you believe that? That hasn't happened all year, and they only had 2 penalties for 10 yards. Oh, my God, you know how happy I'm about that because, you know, I have a 5-penalty rule. Passing, they had more yards than Minnesota with 266. Rushing's the only one that they beat us in. We had 90. They had 104. We should have had over 100. The first half, Montgomery was running up and down the field, and I thought, oh, he's going to have a big game. And then the second half, again, we stopped running it consistently. Time of possession, we won it handily. We had 36 minutes and 47 seconds to, I didn't write theirs down, but I think theirs was 26, something like that. So, you know, why didn't we win? If I tell you these things, you know, right there you say, wow, we should have won. Yeah, we should have. Well, I'm going to tell you why. 2 reasons. Andy Dalton's 2 interceptions, I mean, terrible. You know, the guy... Well, he's not going to be on the team next year, but and I hate saying this, but he looked terrible. He was standing in the pocket. He got sacked 4 times. He doesn't move. He's just standing there. A few times he had a chance to throw the ball to an open receiver, and he couldn't do it. So he's number 1, and Nagy, hands down, is number 2. And here's why I believe we lost that game. We left 14 points on that field yesterday. You watched the game. Twice we were down on the goal line of our goal line, and we were 4th and 1. And what does Nagy and Bill Lazor call? Passing plays? Which proceeded to have Andy Dalton sacked twice, no points. Why was David Montgomery not handed the ball? He was running all over the place in the first half. So, again, 2 reasons. Nagy's an idiot, and he left 14 points. We score those 14 points. I think the game is totally different. I'm not saying it would have been tied. I don't think Minnesota would have scored all those points. I think we would have dominated the game, and it would have changed the whole structure. So that's what happens when you have an idiot calling plays. And Dalton, yeah, but it was more Nagy, in my opinion, why we lost that game. The offensive calling, him, Bill Lazor, passing plays when you're on your unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's almost as bad as a few years ago when Seattle team, the Seattle team was in the Super Bowl, and they were on the less than 1 yard line, and they could have won the game if they had handed the ball off to their running back, their fantastic running back. Instead, their coach, which he should have been fired for this, Pete Carroll, throws the ball and it gets interception. They lose the Super Bowl. I mean, I know this wasn't the Super Bowl yesterday, but it's very similar play calling. Stupid. I know they expect us to run the ball, but you still do it anyways because you got a very good chance, especially with David Montgomery, getting it in. So you deserve being fired, period, Nagy. You deserved it in every way. And sometimes, I said to my son, I wonder if he was giving the Bears organization the finger by calling those stupid-ass plays. Because darn well, they were stupid. Just stupid. Oh, well. And the bright spots, our defense had 3 sacks. Number 90, Blackson, had 1 all by himself, who I really, really like. He's getting better and better. He's showing up each week. Number 98, Nichols, and number 94, Robert Quinn, both shared a sack, our number 2 sack. And then 97, Edwards, and 99, T. Gibson shared another sack, giving us 3. So the defense, I know they gave up 31 points, but, Matt Nagy put him in a bad position, plus 2 interceptions didn't help. Mr. Mooney, number 11, who I love, who is going to be our number 1 receiver next year. He got 126 total yards yesterday. I'm so happy because, remember in my show on Friday, I said I wanted him to get over 1,000. So he ends the season with 1,055 yards. That's awesome. You know what? He would have had a lot more if we had a better offensive line and better play calling. So this is a good thing, though, going into the next season for him. So another one, I want to give a shout out to Montgomery. He only had 77 yards because the Bears stopped running in the second half for most of the second half, but he looked great in the first half. He was just giving his all, and he has also said he wants to stay and be a Bear the rest of his career. As a matter of fact, in the press conference today that George McCaskey just finished about the firings of Matt Nagy and Pace, he called out 2 players. He called out Montgomery and he called Roquan Smith, who I talk about all the time, that linebacker. I tell you people to watch him, number 58. He's so unsung. No one talks about him, but he is everywhere on the field. And McCaskey called them both out as being outstanding Bears players and outstanding teammates. So that was pretty cool. I was like, wow. I mean, there's a lot of good Bears players, do not get me wrong, but the fact that he called those 2 out, it was interesting, and I liked it because I like them both, and they don't get their just dues. And I'm hoping with the new coaching staff, we start running the ball more, which will open up opportunities for Fields. That's the thing why I don't get Nagy didn't get it. And but, we need an offensive line, too. So, yesterday's game just went like the rest of the season, right? Bad. I didn't expect much. I didn't even care, to be honest with you. I love to see a Bears win, but at that point, I was just so over this season. I've seen a lot of bad Bears seasons. I really, really have throughout because I've been a fan since 75, so you can imagine. But this one just really let me down in so many ways. I just don't know what the coaches were thinking. And you had players that are playing their guts out there, and they just don't give them the opportunity. And then we had the COVID bullshit, and then all the injuries. It just was so disappointing. And especially when you have a player like Akeem Hicks, who I'm not sure why he wasn't in that game. He wasn't hurt. and I didn't get it. And so I read an article today. I don't know if it's true, but supposedly him and one of the coaches, defensive coaches, had an argument about last week's game. And the Bears organization didn't appreciate it, so therefore he was not there. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I couldn't figure out why he wasn't in the game. His last game of the season makes no sense to me as a Chicago Bear. I don't get it. So I'd really like to know the truth behind that, because that pissed me off. I'm like, where the hell is Akeem? He was not on an injury list that I saw, so I don't get it. If there's something, you know what, they buried, and then it's unfortunate because maybe now for sure they probably won't bring him back. I thought maybe if he accepted a lesser deal, maybe they'd bring him back, because the team loves him, the fans love him. He's still, but he was hurt a lot this year. So I don't know. I'd like to know the true story behind that, though. So if anybody finds out what's going on, please write me, okay? So let's talk about the fired coaches so far today. We have Matt Nagy and our GM Pace. Vic Fangio. Fangio was fired on Sunday. I told you on Friday's show I didn't think so, but I wasn't sure. But I hadn't been following Denver as much, so when I watched them the other day and I learned his record, I was like, oh, yeah, no, he's going to get fired. But it's really not fair because he never had a quarterback. Never had a quarterback. So that didn't help. And then Mike Zimmer and their GM for the Minnesota Vikings, they got fired today. Not a surprise. This is my surprise. I was shocked when I heard Brian Flores of Miami. Super surprised. They went 9-8 this year. They beat New England yesterday. They've got a quarterback that may or may not be okay. I don't think he's that good, but I was just shocked by this one, and from all what I'm reading, the players were very unhappy. So I don't know. There's always a surprise at the end of the football season who gets fired. Then Urban Meyer, we know he was let go weeks ago, and then John Gruden. So we'll see. There's a lot of coaching opportunities out there. So. And I'm most concerned, yes, we need a GM, of course, but I don't get as involved in GMs because it's more of a hierarchy. I'm more concerned with our coach. So the one thing about today's press conference that George McCaskey has said, so there has been some changes. Ted Phillips is still with the Bears, but he's basically going to be working on the Arlington Heights deal. So he'll still be sitting in. They're going to ask his opinion, of course, on the hires, but they're bringing in Bill Pullman. I don't know how they pronounce his last name, but he was with Indy for a long time, and he's a big baseball guy. He's got a lot of smarts, and Poling. I think it's Bill Poling, and so they're bringing him in as a consultant, although they did it with that Ernie guy in 2015. It didn't really work out. But this guy, I think, might be much better. I think he's going to give us some opportunities. And he is in the Hall of Fame as an executive. So that's pretty good. And then, and now what's going to change is, in the past, the GMs always reported to Ted Phillips. That is no longer going to happen. I don't know if this is a good or bad thing, but they're going to, in this year and moving forward, they're going to be reporting directly to George McCaskey. While, as I said, Phillips is going to be working on the Arlington Heights deal. So, I don't know. We're going to have to see with bringing that in. And there's what they said. So it's McCaskey, Bill Poling, a guy named Shout. I don't know what his damn name was. And another woman, and then Ted Phillips will sort of be in it. So those are the fives that are going to be Scout was his name. That's it, Scout. That are going to be in the hiring of the GM and then going forth for the head coach. I've heard so many rumors about the GM again. I should get more involved, but that doesn't really interest me a lot. I know it's important. Don't get me wrong. It's just I'm more focused on the head coach because they're the ones that are interacting one-on-one with the players and making the final decisions on game day. So, but GMs, I've heard Louis Reddick, and he's been a player, and now he's out of football, and he's done some good things. I've also read there's 10 other guys that could honestly be in for the job. So I'm not really sure. I really have to make more. I'd have to read more to really see. I do know that there was one guy um, for. Well, no, that's head coach. Never mind. Let's get back to the head coaching. So, the head coach. You know what I said last week. Anyways, real quick, I really don't know. I don't have a big opinion on the GM yet, so that's going to come for later shows. When they hire a GM, I'm going to come on and I'm going to talk. I'm going to have a show when the coach and the GM new get hired. I will do another show on that, of course. I'd love to see Jim Harbaugh as our head coach. I think he would be great with Fields, and I think he can call a good game, and he's got a good track record in the NFL. Everybody knows it. So I'd like to see it. Probably won't happen, but I'd love to see it. And the big rumor, which would be, if this would happen, my head would explode with excitement. I swear to God it would. The rumor, because Vic Fangio now has been fired, we know that, and Fangio was Jim McMahon's defensive coordinator when he was with San Francisco. So now the rumors are that the Bears are going to bring Jim Harbaugh in, and then he's going to bring Fangio back. So I don't know. Again, if that happened, my head would explode with excitement. So, but I don't count on that happening. It is the Chicago Bears, after all. I love them, but it's just the truth. I'm also hearing, and this one interests me, is Brian Daboll of the Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator, and he looks good. I mean, he's really done a great job with their rookie. Well, he's not a rookie anymore. Josh Allen, I think this is his third year, and he's really helped turn him around, and he's got a lot of potential, and people really like him. And so that's an interesting one. And then this was the other one that I was considering. So these are my top three that I would think about is Greg Norman, the Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator. I mean, he has done a great job with I just forgot his name. He hasn't been playing the last few weeks because he hurts, but they're quarterback. And what they said he has done is he changed his schemes and all the offensive schemes to the strength of his quarterback. Because the guy's only been in the league 3 years, and he changed everything to his strengths. And what a thought, huh? They did finish 8. Did they win yesterday, Baltimore? No, they didn't. They lost to Pittsburgh. So they won 8-9. So they didn't have a good year, but nobody had more injuries than the Ravens. Before the season even started, they lost major players to injuries. So, and it's gone on all year. I mean, they were bringing guys in, that off the street. It was that bad. So, but these three, I like Harbaugh, the Brian Daboll, whatever, from Buffalo Bills, and then Greg Norman. So those are my three that are my top three candidates for the job. Now, I could tell you who I don't want. Hands down, I don't want anybody from the Kansas City organization. No. And another one, I don't want that Josh Daniels from New England. I didn't like how he, a few years ago, he committed to Indianapolis Colts to be their head coach. And then, like a week later, when he went to sign the contract, he said, "I changed my mind. I'm going back to New England." It was like about 2 weeks after he said he would, which then put Indy way behind the ball, everybody else, because they thought they did their diligence, did their homework, and were ready to sign Daniels. And 10 days later, he says, changed my mind. I'm going back to New England. You know what? That's not cool. If you can't trust a man's word and before signing it, that's somebody you don't want on your team. You can't trust him. So I would not want him. That's who I'm telling you right now. Anybody from Kansas City or Josh Daniels, say no to, okay? So the one thing about I'm going to bring up, and you'll see, Nagy, yeah, they keep saying, oh, we went to the playoffs with Nagy a couple years. We were 12-4 the first year. Yeah, we were. And then it just went downhill. So I was reading about this. We all know this, but so the Bears struggled throughout his 4 seasons. So with the Bears, the first season they were ranked ninth. They went 12-4, and that was Mitchell's second year with the Bears, first under Matt Nagy. Sounds pretty good to me, right? Then the next year they come out, they're 29th in 2019, 22nd in 2020, and 27th in 2021. That was the Bears offense. Their scoring was 21st in his first year, 18, 29th, 19, 26th, 2020, and 24th in this year. So none of that is good. The first year he was there in 18, Mitchell's second year, and we were 12-4. We were ninth. So why did he change Mitchell to be and let Mitchell was running around trying to do the best he could in 2018, and in 2019 he wanted him to be a pocket passer only, and everything changed. So Nagy, for that alone, you deserve to be gone. I'm sorry, gone. Yeah, you're just terrible. In the press conference, though, today, George McCaskey did say something, and it's the truth. When Matt Nagy's son was playing football about a month ago, and some Bears fans were in the stands, and they were saying, fire Nagy, you know what? It's not fair. You don't want to bring in kids, just like in politics. Don't bring the kids in for their politician parents. Not fair. They didn't ask their opinion. They didn't get asked to be brought into it, and it's not fair. So that was one thing Bears fans shouldn't have done. I liked it all the other places they did it, but not that. So, but we got to turn this around. And George McCaskey said something funny in his press conference too, when they asked Virginia, Mama McCaskey, what she thought about this season. He said very staunchly, as a mother would say, very, very disappointed. Good for you, Virginia. And that's the thing. The woman is 99 years old. Can we win another Super Bowl, or at least go somewhere in the playoffs, make it to the championship game, something? So I don't know. We got to see. It's going to be very, very interesting. I hope the Bears act quickly, swiftly on this, but make the right decisions. There are candidates out there. I told you my 3. I know I butchered one guy's name from the Buffalo Bills, but those are my 3 candidates that I want, that I would be considered a good option for the Bears when I was reading their bios. So go read them. What was it? What did I say? Greg Norman. Oh, God, I got to go back now. Let me go back and read it real quick. Yeah, I do take some notes. I'm sure you guys all know that. I have to. I'm 63. I have a pickled brain. I can't remember everything. So my choices were Jim Harbaugh, Brian Delball, Delball, Daboll. He's the Bills OC coordinator, and then Greg Roman, from the Baltimore Ravens. Those are my 3 choices for head coach. So let's see. There was another question. I got to tell you, I was listening to the whole press conference today, and George, like a politician, dodged a lot of the questions. I'm like, George, that's not what he asked you, man. Come on. Put your big boy pants on and answer it. But he didn't. Oh, shoot. What was I going to say? One of the questions they asked. Oh, if there was a head coach that they were interviewing and they were like, oh, my God, we love this guy. We've got to take him. hopefully Jim Harbaugh. And they got to take him before somebody else snaps him up, who could be the Las Vegas Raiders. They're very interested in Harbaugh as well. Would you hire him before the GM? Which means, because the thing is, your GM hires the head coach. It's very uncharacteristic and unusual to have a new head coach and then you hire the GM. You'd have to get a GM to agree to that, and I'm not sure too many GMs would do that. But McCaskey said we might do that. See, right there, you're starting off on the wrong foot. Don't do that, because then you're going to have a hard time finding a GM, in my opinion, unless you find a GM who is very much in love with Fields and says, yeah, that's fine, and then puts in his contract, I pick the next quarterback if needed. That's probably what would happen. But so I don't know. There's a number one mistake. I didn't like that. And I don't know. He's been George. I like him. We're pen pals. You know that. You see behind me those 3 letters that are hanging on the picture of one of the best offensive lines the Bears have ever had. And that was from the 80s. And boy, I sure wish we could. I hope we get a offensive line like that again. But those are my letters up there, and I like him. But he's been in operations now, the president, for 11 years, and you know what? The last 11 years haven't been that good. So, but he said the board unanimously let him stay. So, but I bet his tender is not long if the Bears don't turn this around next year or the year after. George is probably gone too, but. You hear rumors the Bears won't do anything until they sell the team. The Bears are cheap. The one thing he did say, and I'm not sure if people heard this, when he was talking about hiring GMs and coaches, he was saying there's certain things that are just not even going to be an issue. And money was one of them, he said. He didn't say money. He said expenses and finances, but was not something that is going to scare them off. I'm like, well, it's about time. So let's see. Maybe they're going to put their money where it should be. And Pace sure paid some of these players. So let's play a coach and a GM what they deserve, and let's turn this around, and let's get back to Chicago Bears winning again. And we start leading the NFC. We beat Green Bay. We win the division. We go to the playoffs, and we go to the Super Bowl. And it's got to happen consistently. It's been a long time, and it's overdue. The fans totally deserve it, and so does Virginia, by the way. Okay, 99, she's still kicking. She's waiting for another Super Bowl. For crying out loud, give her one, okay? All right. Woo! But I don't know. And there were some other takeaways that, he double talked a few times. He's just not going to answer the questions. But he did call out, and for the life of me, I must have missed this play yesterday. But he was he said it was a very disappointing season. And part of the reasons he's mad at coaching and discipline, without saying it, he called out, if you remember the first game, now I remember this, where the Bears defensive players, there was 2 of them standing there, and the guy was down, and they didn't touch him. So then he gets up and starts running and got a lot of yards. Remember that? Well, apparently that happened yesterday's game. If it did, I didn't see it. You know what? I was kind of talking to my daughter-in-law a lot. You know what? I just started losing interest. I'm watching. I'm kind of like, I could look at my daughter-in-law and watch the game at the same time, But apparently it happened yesterday where a defensive player did not hit a player that was down on the ground. And McCaskey said, a lot of things stood out this year, but those 2 really stood out. So whoever that defensive player was yesterday, and again, I'm going to have to look that up. I think you're in some trouble. So we'll see. We'll see if the Bears really do pull it off the right way, because we are so overdue. And they've got talent on the team. That's what somebody said in the press conference. Do you think a GM's going to come in and want to rebuild the whole team? It's not necessary. We're only hurting in some spots. Oh, of course, we always want better players, but at the end of the day, that's the truth. It's not a rebuild here. We just need, offensive line. We need a good number 3 receivers. That would be great, preferably tall. We could use some more linebackers, another linebacker for sure to help Roquan. And then we need some help in the backfield. But it's not an overall. I mean, if we can't get one of these things, except for the offensive line, that is number one, and receivers is another, I think they need badly too. So we'll see. It's not a rebuild, people, and we can turn this around if we get a coaching staff that knows how to work with your players' strengths, know how to make adjustments at a halftime, and we could do it. So we'll see. I will be back on Friday to talk about any updates, news, and I want to talk about the free agents. There's a lot of free agents. I think I said 30 or 31. So I'd like to really, because I know I looked at the list and there was a name on there that didn't belong. I was looking through this list and it had Foles as a free agent. He's not a free agent. He has one more year with the Bears. So my guess is Foles is probably going to be our backup next year, which is fine with me. I don't care. But we'll go over free agents on Friday. Any updates the Bears make, we'll talk about them, and then I'll make predictions on all the playoff games on this weekend, which I'm just like excited about. Wish our team was in it. But so big day, big awesome day for Chicago. For a shitty season, the end came with a bright spot. I mean, you hate to have this happen, but it had to happen. And, that was the other thing. Why didn't they fire him last year? And George said because they went to the playoffs, even though they sucked last year, they wanted to give Nagy and Pace one more year to see if they could turn it around. And they said, we knew. And also he cleared up, Also he cleared up that story that went around at Thanksgiving that the Bears were firing Nagy after that game, how it got out and caused a lot of trouble. George had to address the players and Nagy, and he said that came from somebody who never reports on the Bears normally, and it was a complete lie. And he's like, and I just felt really sad that I didn't address it that day with the Bears players and Nagy. He did eventually, but he felt he handled that very badly, and he did. He should have said right away that is absolutely not true, and he did not come out and say it till like 2 or 3 days later. So he was like, that was a bald-faced lie. And then the Olin Cruz story about how the Bears came to him, was it last year or whatever, and asked him to consult with the offensive line, and they only wanted to give him $15 an hour. If you listen to the press conference, he said, Olin Kreutz doesn't always tell the complete story. So we don't know if the Bears really only charged him. I don't know. Really? Would the Bears really insult him with $15 an hour? I find that hard to believe. But you know what? You never know with the Chicago Bears. You know, I've been a fan forever, and I have seen it all. And it's mostly not good. So, as always, I am always going to be on the positive side. I just can't help myself. My friends laugh at me, my family. They're like, I do. I always say, okay, we're going to be better next year. We're going to be back in it. So let's hope they can turn this around. It'll really depend on who the head coach is, in my opinion, and then the GM. The GM is, I know we have to get a good GM, but most importantly, head coach. And we got to bring some of these players back. So let's see. I'm going to stop babbling. I talked way too long. But, the season's over. It sucks. We had a terrible one. And we can only get better from this. The only thing is to do is look up and say it's going to get better next year. It just has to, right? And as always, I love you guys. My 3 call-outs last week liked it, and I appreciated some of the comments, particularly from one of them. He said he actually had a family member watching my show with him last week when I called him out, and it made him feel good. And then he said a lot of nice things about me. And I'm no expert on the Chicago Bears or football. I know a lot, but I'm no expert. But I'm not here to be an expert. I'm here to give you the truth about what I see and some of the stats. I'm not a numbers person with football, but I want to bring some truth and some fun to it, right? So that's what I hope I've been doing, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. I will be back next year, but I'm not done yet. I will be back. One of my subscribers said, please, don't say you're only going to do one more show. If things happen, we want you to come back and talk about it. Pretty cool, huh? I mean, for this 63-year-old pickled stuck with her father's face on a woman's body. It made my heart warm. I actually got a little teary-eyed. Yeah, so thanks, man. You know who you are, Daniels. You know it. Thank you. So, as always, be kind. Love one another. Stop hate. Help people out if needed. And we can maybe get through all this together. And remember, we are going to be better in 2022. I just like the sound of 2022. So go Bears. I'll see you guys Friday. It's a good day to be a Bears fan today, isn't it? And as always, keep on rocking and rolling from Vegas, baby. See you later.